Good morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I have an amazing show for you today. I have some very special guests with some very special stories, and I know you are going to enjoy today's show. So I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go ahead and share the show. But while you're sharing the show, you also want to grab your notepad and your pen because I'm pretty sure you're going to want to take notes today. So whether you're watching this show live or whether you're watching it in the archives, please make sure that you visit our guests, check out their websites, and follow them on social media. I want to go ahead and introduce our first guest. She has been here before. You might recognize her name, you might recognize her story, but you also might recognize her book. Jade Elizabeth is here with us today, and her book is Your Amazing Itty Bitty Self-Esteem Book. Good morning, Jade. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. I'm absolutely fantastic and so glad to be here. I know that we have a very cool panel today. I've returned before, so welcome everyone that's watching. You know, one of the biggest things that most people fail to really look at is receiving.
Mm.
And I'd like to bring that up today because we're taught that if we don't give all the time, we're selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not true. You know, if we continue to give and give and give and don't receive or allow ourselves to receive things, we're going to be empty and we'll end up resentful and hurtful, and all sorts of things happen. And right now, with the pandemic the way it is and spreading, so many people are giving, but also, are you allowing yourself to receive?
You know, that was beautiful. And especially after our interview the other day, we did an Ask Sharifa videocast interview. We sat down one-on-one and discussed so much of your life. And if anyone missed that interview, it's on my it's actually on AskSharifa.com as well as my social media. But you shared so much of your personal information. And so you're here today with us. And I'm talking about your amazing itty bitty self-esteem book, and you just blow me away with receiving. And one of the reasons why I love that is because I was in this mood and I'm like, okay, I need to hear a message. Like I need something to tell me what I need to focus on that morning. And without any ado or anything, you come out, bam, focus on receiving. It's just timely for me.
Well, you know, Spirit always talks to all of us. So apparently they downloaded some information that I was supposed to give. So, but you know, it really right now, it is one of the biggest things that so many people are forgetting. You know, we want to be able to help everybody because, especially givers, want to be able to help everyone, you know, keep them going and moving and motivated. But what about us?
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that we can do? What are some of the things that you recommend for people who have a hard time receiving?
Well, it was hard for me for a long time. And one of the biggest things that I started doing is when someone would give me a compliment, I would just stop instead of making, and you ever notice people will make an excuse like, oh, I really like your top. And they'll go, oh, this thing, yeah, I got it at the Walmart, or I got it, you know, at the bargain store. It's almost like it's hard for them to even take that kind of a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
So I started just stopping, taking a breath, and saying thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, after enough thank you and not really saying anything else, I was finally able to start receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And now I love receiving, but I also love to give. But it's so much nicer because when I give now, I give full. I'm
Mhm.
always full. I allow myself to continuously be filled up so that I can give more.
Go Jade. That was the message I need to hear today, or at least one of the messages. I'm going to be back with you, but I want to go ahead on that same vein and introduce our next guest, Terry Lynn Yankee of Eventful Advantage. Terry Lynn, what did you think of that powerful message on receiving? Because I know
Yeah,
you work with women. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you work with women entrepreneurs and support them. I just wanted to mention that.
right, right. You're right, Sharifa, and thank you for having me on the show. And Jade, a pleasure to meet you. And what a nice message that you have shared with us. Yes, I think not to exclude Joseph, who is here today too, but I think this is something that's really tough for women
Hmm.
to receive because it is just, I mean, part of how we were brought up is to be the one to take care of others.
Mhm.
And that's whether you work or you don't work. You know, we were the ones that we would take care of our children, we would take care of the pets, we take care of our husbands or significant others. And so that is just kind of like the nature of everything. And you're right, it's so important to receive, to accept, and it is hard. And Jade, I've had to practice receiving also, because I think it's our nature to give and give too much sometimes, where we forget about. And something that I always like to emphasize in the group that I belong, that I help, and that I'm managing director of eWomen Network, one of their chapters, and one of their values is self-care.
Mhm.
And so along with receiving, it's self-care. And I think that's part of self-care is
Mhm.
you have to take care of yourself so you can give more. And
Mhm.
do take the receiving because that gives you energy. And then, it's also almost like a gratitude too, in a way, is that if you accept receiving from others, you're more conditioned or want to give a nice compliment to someone else or tell someone how much you appreciate them.
That is so wonderful. What are some of the things that you did personally to practice receiving?
It's bite my tongue because to what Jade says, it's like right away. Oh, you think my hair looks nice? Oh my God, it's so frizzy, and
Mhm.
um, you right away kind of don't accept it. You say something that contradicts them, and instead it's like, thank you, just thank you, and take it in. And sometimes you even don't hear it right away because you're just objecting it right away. You're like, oh no, that top it's horrible. I bought it at Marshall's, for like $2, but it's just like, thank you.
Mhm.
Bite your
So
tongue on the rest of it. Don't allow anything else out. Thank you.
It's just that simple. Thank you. And thank you has that energy of gratitude. That's the beauty of it. It's just being grateful for whatever we have that day in that moment and appreciate it. And I have to do that because when I grew up, my dad would always tell that story is when you think of the man with no shoes, then you have to think about the man with no feet. And then when you think about the man with no feet, then you think about the man with no legs. And by the time my dad had finished, this man was just a nub. Like, I'm like, Dad, like, I would be ready to run myself into traffic if I was this man at this point. But it's just the whole, just no matter what you have or what situation you're going through, there's always someone who has it worse. So I guess that's the message that I needed to get out today. But tell us about your business. Tell us what you do, Terry Lynn.
Sure. Eventful Advantage is an event services company. So I am a business event producer and consultant to create experiences, not just events, to grow your business and brand. And why I say create experiences is that you want your experiences lead to memories, and you want your business and brand to be remembered. And so it's a little bit of neuroscience stuff. But I just make it's very important no matter what budget you have, whether it's small or big. And my business was all in person up until March. And
That was
then
my
I
next
had,
question.
yeah. And so in March, I switched to having online events. And since then, I have been doing online events, consulting on online events, and kind of convincing people, because it's not your usual way of having events for a lot of people, is to that leverage Zoom to make your business boom. And then I did a lot of giving. For a while there, since I was a Zoom expert, I was teaching others how to use it and how you could leverage it, and then doing a lot of consulting on how to switch in-person events to go online, and how to create an experience, because it's a little bit harder online. um, I, I'm a big believer that all five senses need to be stimulated. And when you're online, the sense of smell, the sense of taste isn't necessarily covered. And so either I have my attendees for different events bring something to the event, or the sending of kits to kind of help create a better experience. And so a lot of people are starting to do that. We're sending kits, to especially cover those two senses, but also to add some other elements to the event.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood, but I wasn't clear on the kits that you're sending.
Okay. So, like, say, for if you wanted to stimulate the sense of smell, for instance, which is one of our strongest senses. And online, you can't really do that. If you're in person, you would maybe smell the flowers, you would smell the food, you would smell different things. And so, depending on what the event is, having actually something sent to that person's house that has that sense of smell. And
Oh.
and it could be other things to make things more interacting engagement. You can have little paddles that you can show to kind of say yes, no, try to increase interaction and engagement, because that's a little bit more difficult online. It could be something like I actually consulted on a in-person retreat that turned virtual. And they kind of bring women together that are looking to possibly go through divorce. They're thinking about it and prepare them and get them ready. And normally they do it in person. It's very touching, very emotional. They sent, nice little, lotions and Kleenex and, just little things in a kit to personalize it and get them prepared, because they're not meeting in person anymore, but to send a little care package to them before the event started that could, kind of augment the event, be a little bit nice. Who doesn't like to receive presents in the mail? And
I love
kind of,
it.
yeah.
I'm glad I asked that question, because I'm glad you explained it, because I didn't get all of that from kids. I think that's wonderful. I'm going to come back to you, Terry Lynn. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Mr. Joseph Muse of Business GPS. Good morning, Joseph. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I'm really enjoying the discussion so far. It's very interesting coming from a man's perspective, talking about giving and receiving and so forth. That's my customer base is mostly men, ages 45 to 60, and just the discussion of receiving and giving, I feel like their eyes gloss over a little bit. So this is a discussion that more men should be a part of. That's for sure.
But you know what the interesting thing is? First of all, thank you for saying that. But I always have this discussion on the show. Typically, there are either 4 women and a man, or there are 5 women. That's typically what the ratio is. And I always say it's because I can't really get the men to open up or talk. Like, we don't want to talk about our business. We just want to sell some products, do some service.
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm happy to be on the show again. I think it's really fascinating, and it's hard for men we're sometimes so logical. I do business turnarounds. I help businesses that are struggling, and they want a simple A to B, B to C kind of example. Hey, let me do X so I can get Y, period, the end. And the idea of giving, it's interesting. We're talking about how to receive.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very important. I think it's very important. And I get the idea of somebody pays you a compliment. The other day, somebody tried to thank me for my work, and I kind of blew it off, and I thought about it later. Why did I do that? I should say, yes, of course, you're welcome. But what I find is the struggle with male the demographic 45 to 60 is just the idea of giving.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of giving is difficult, and trying to educate them is hard. In the concept, for me at least, is that whatever you want to receive, you must give first. So if you want respect, you must give respect. If you want love, you must give love. You must take the lead on these things. But it's really hard because we're so wired in, well, how do I do this today in this moment? And how do the numbers look? And I guess it's just a different wiring, but it's difficult. I guess my point is, it's more on the giving side than the receiving side. Like receiving is 202, class 202, receiving is 101 that a lot of men need to learn.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go back to something you said. You said you blew off this compliment about your work, and then you asked yourself later, why did you do that? Did you come up with a conclusion or reason? Is that typical for you?
You know, I think it was hard for whatever reason. It was hard for me to receive it. The person was telling me, thank you so much. And I kind of said, well, of course, this is what you would do. And, you know, I gave a very logical male explanation. Well, of course, because this is how this should work out, of course, as opposed to just saying thank you. So I don't know. I have to think a little bit more as to why I didn't. I just thought to myself, next time, just say thank you. You know?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen over the last few months with businesses and their ability to pivot? What are some of the directions and trends that you've seen?
It is so hard. And we deal with companies of various industries, various sizes, different places around the country. So some who are in the exhibitor type business, you know, they're truly doing a 180 pivot to something completely different. I've got some manufacturing companies that were manufacturing widgets or mechanical items. Now they're trying to manufacture hand sanitizer. But a lot of the stuff are more small pivots in the customer base you're going after. But you also have to restructure. You have to rethink about your numbers. Okay, how am I going to keep these people employed? Is it the same number of people? Should Susie be doing something different? Whatever. And the biggest thing that I run into is the noise right here. There's a lack of clarity because there's so much stress. And what I tell people is fear is your number one enemy. And in my life, at least, any decision I've made out of fear has been the wrong decision. So a lot of it starts with just trying to get to a place without fear, with some logic, and go, okay, let's just take it a step at a time. Let's call this a 10-step program or a 20-step program. Let's just focus on step one. And then tomorrow we'll focus on step two. So it's, I think it's more that, it's more the fear factor than anything else.
I want to come back to you, Joseph. I definitely agree, but I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, because when we start talking about stress, when we start talking about anxiety, people tell us, okay, well, have you tried yoga? And for me, I have not, because I don't know. Like I always try different things. I try to exercise, but that never lasts long for me. I may decide to go to a yoga class, but I know on the second day, I'm not going back. I don't know why. I'm a recluse who never leaves the house. That's why I want to talk to Cheryl Albright of Soul to Soul Yoga. And you're also an occupational therapist. Good morning, Cheryl. Thank you for being here with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome.
Go ahead.
No, I said you're so welcome.
I'm the owner of Soul to Soul Yoga and All Ages Therapy Services, and we provide yoga and occupational-based services to individuals of all ages. And so, yeah, stress has been a big, my typical demographic is, I'd say 9 years old to maybe 20, 25. And so there's a lot of stress in these little bodies and a lot of things that had to happen quickly and questions and answers that aren't available to these individuals. And most of the individuals I do work with have some sort of developmental disability as well. So it just kind of compounds on it. But if I can calm them down, I can calm anyone down. So
so basically that's the reason for me to go to yoga class, because so many people have told me it's like a repeated thing, like, Sharifa, you need yoga, like you need yoga in your life. This is the need, meditate yoga. That I still never do it. I don't know why. It's just
It depends, and you know what you might want to try to do is try different types, because everybody comes hopefully from a different lineage, but some of the teachers are just from drive-by yoga programs and things of that nature too. So if you didn't resonate with the one class that you went to, then it wasn't for you. But keep trying different ones.
You lost me. What is a drive-by yoga class?
So there are some teacher training programs that aren't the greatest out there. So they're pumping out these teachers that maybe don't have the most experience in the world, and maybe just, it depends. Like some focus on just the physical postures and not the philosophy, or some just focus on the philosophy and nobody's ever seen a human body move. So I
like you, Cheryl.
It's just kind of scary what's going on out there. Like I have an actual degree to go with it, and I'm going. So just keep trying different. If they don't say what type it is, like hatha, vinyasa, or something that has like a definitive like label on it, then they probably, if they say eclectic, run. That means they don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
So I hope that helps.
That helps immensely for drive-by yoga classes. Okay. So what do you do? What is okay, since you're obviously not a drive-by yoga class, what makes yours unique?
My therapy brain, usually. So mine are accessible to all people of all ages and abilities. And so that class can be modified to anyone and for anyone. And that's the biggest struggle I have out in the world, is that, especially where I live, there's a lot of what I call white privilege yoga going on. The classes are expensive. They're not accessible. The teacher is the size 2. And she's just more interested in showing what her physical body can do in front of a room full of people. And that's not what it was designed to do.
You can't stop now, Cheryl. Like, this is the good part. Like what was it designed to do?
The typical studio model almost died when COVID happened, right? So a lot of teachers try to pivot online, but if they went to one of these drive-by yoga training things, they didn't have the ability to kind of flip the switch. I had always offered telehealth, so it was just a quick, easy, okay, we're just doing these things online. I don't teach a traditional class at this point. The side, all ages therapy services, which is what I bill under for insurance, is the one that kind of picked up, whereas the private pay luxury type client kind of fell off as people got furloughed and laid off, or their kids are at home and now they don't have the time. So the other side of the business just picked up. And, back to what was said before, it was just moving to a different pillar of the business that was already existing. So, there's the yoga sort of studio model, there's the therapy model, there's, the CE and events that I do for continuing ed for other occupational therapists. And I just found out yesterday, certified for yoga therapists as well. So you just pivot. So I'm not doing the in-person, we're doing it online across the board.
I love it. I'm going to come back to you, Cheryl. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Melanie McSally, and she's going to talk to us about her business, Wise Tribe. Good morning, Melanie. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. I'm fantastic. How are you?
I love you. You look nervous. Why are you so nervous? You got that I don't know what Sharifa's going to ask smile on.
No. This is just my normal smile. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was about to say, I don't know what I'm about to ask, so I can tell you.
Well, I'll help you. I have to say that I've really enjoyed this conversation. I mean, it started with receiving the flip side of gratitude, and I couldn't agree more, because we hear so much about give. Well, if you're always giving, then how are you giving of your best self? Because there's nothing left in your cup, right? So now you're just scraping at the bottom of the barrel. So I love that we're actually talking about the flip side of refilling your cup so that you can give, and a lot of times, like what Joseph said, is everything we do is based on fear. And, you know, we make decisions on fear. We don't make decisions on fear, right? And so I want to pull these two threads together, because one of the things I like to talk about is being prepared to accept success. So accepting success is another way of receiving, right? And a lot of times people don't accept it because they're afraid of it, right? They're afraid to succeed because, you know, what's next? Oh my God, I have to do the next thing once I've succeeded. And so they're not setting themselves up for success. They're not prepared when success hits. And so I'm a technology expert. So I like to talk about how we make technology accessible for everybody so that you can be prepared for when success happens. So a lot of businesses had to pivot in this time, but also a lot of businesses boomed, right? Like if we look at Zoom is my best example right now, because they were already successful, but when the pandemic hit, they actually had to turn away people because they weren't prepared to go to that next level. And they're still really successful, but they could be even more successful had they been prepared, you know? And so it's just a big message for anybody. It doesn't matter whether success is knocking for the first time or over and over again. You always need to be ready to scale, because it's kind of like dating. It's like looking for your perfect mate in life. You never know when they're going to come, right? So you got to be prepared.
Oh, that's so crazy. Like, this is fun. I'm having a good time this morning because I'm telling you, Jay, everybody, y'all preaching to me this morning. I didn't even let you finish, but I made this post online this morning, and what you said just resonated with me, because Jade knows me. I mean, like I said, Jade's been on the show a million times, but I've known Jade for the last 2 years. When we actually could go out in the world, we would always go to events. We would always be together. So I you know, she knows how weird I am. But I made this post, and all our community are readers and spiritual people. But I said this morning, I said, every reader in the world reads for me, and they're like, Sharifa, you're going to make a lot of money. And I'm like, I just wish one of them would look in their crystal ball and be like, Sharifa, there's a man, he's coming, he'll be here tomorrow. And I'll be like, but oh well, such is life. So when you went to dating, I'm like, oh my God, Melanie, preach to me, talk to me, what do I need to do?
Me too.
Well,
Yeah, see, Terry Lynn saying the same thing.
well, it's interesting because when Terry Lynn was talking, I was thinking, oh, that's perfect for the people that are trying to date right now, because the one thing I keep saying is, I don't want to date during this time. I don't want to look for a new person, because I believe in energy and attraction through the energy around you. And so while sure, I could be on Zoom and what have you, like I can't feel your energy. But I was thinking when you were talking about the kits, like, oh, we could send like a kit that would remind somebody of me or introduce them to my energy, my, you know, whatever. So yeah, I mean, it all comes full circle, right? We're talking about receiving, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about business health, we're talking about dating. It's all related.
Yeah.
Just like,
I'll let you know, these are all topics that in a room full of guys, we would never talk about. We would never
I know,
talk
isn't it
about
wonderful?
things. Melanie was like, oh, we always hear about giving. I'm thinking, I'm in the wrong crowd, because the guys around me aren't talking about giving.
So isn't it nice, though, that you're in a group where you can actually experience that talk?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the way I try to translate it for a guy talking about accepting success is, okay, I try to tell the business owner, okay, what would a company 3 times your size do? That's how you should be acting, right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's a different way of, I don't know, maybe that's a different way of saying it. And then talking about giving and receiving for a business owner is trying to make it emotional, trying to connect with that person, making that relationship sticky, so that it doesn't really matter how you have to alter your business because of what's going on with COVID. If you have a sticky business, you have an emotional connection with your customers, they're going to follow you. They're going to be with you. And so this all does tie together.
Yes, Terry Lynn.
So Sharifa, I have a question for you.
Oh, Jade, I don't know if I want to take this.
So you're talking about meeting a man, right? So what are you doing to do that? You said you're a homebody, you don't go out anywhere. So how are you going to meet anyone unless you're hoping to meet them on your show?
It only took Jade 32 minutes to get to that question. I thought it was going to be less.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt when everyone was being introduced because it's like, oh yeah, I have more that I can give.
I answered that question in my post. I said that when I get to the promised land, I'm going to either buy me a man or hire a cabana boy. I don't know which one yet.
Oh, I didn't see the post. So
that's what it said. So those are I'm just gonna buy one. You know, I own you, right? That's how we solve that problem. But I really, honestly, seriously, let me be serious. I'm like Melanie. To me, it's like a global pandemic. It's not the best time, the ideal time to go out meeting all these random people. You know, just like I have a friend right now who is going through a divorce. She was married for 10 years. And to everybody's, knowledge, was perfectly happy for 10 years. Global pandemic happens. She lost her job a year ago. Global pandemic happens. Her husband loses his job. They're sitting at home, drinking and arguing. Now they want a divorce. And I'm like, dude, this is not a good time to get a divorce. Like, we may need him to cut the firewood or, go to the well or something. Like, this is not the time to split up or to find new people. And that's my main reason. Jay, did that answer your question on my show?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Have you seen the commercials for Match now? If you watch Hulu, they have so people are doing Grubhub, sending the other person a meal and then doing this online. So they have their bottle of wine that the other person has sent, and they just do it virtually. And you're right, you can't feel the energy of the other person, but it's just an interest, like you said that. I'm like, you don't need to leave your home. They can send you something.
Yeah, I'm okay. So I'm going to give you advice that I'm not taking myself. So take that for what it is.
I love this show. I love what I do. Yes, give me the advice you won't take.
So I quit my job and became a digital nomad. I was traveling the world, giving business advice and helping people with their technology. And so I was never in the same location for more than 3 days. And so I thought, well, how am I supposed to meet somebody? I'm never in the same place long enough to actually meet with them, right? And so I started thinking, okay, when I do this, I'll do that. When I do this, I'll do that. And then the pandemic hit, and I've been in the same place for 9 months. I'm still not doing anything. And I don't know, I'm a big believer in the universe puts roadblocks in your way, or they put synchronicities in your way to tell you you're on the right path. And so I feel like this is the universe's way of telling me there's something that I need to deal with, which is, addressing the fact that I'm always putting off having a relationship. And maybe the same is true for you, is that you're just putting it off. So why are you putting it off? What are you making more important than having a relationship for yourself?
You and all of you. Okay? That's all I'm trying to do is be a good person. I'm trying to help the people.
And see, Sharifa, that's the reason that message was this morning. You give so much on your shows. You help so many people get out and be able to see and experience other people. But what are you receiving?
You ain't got to be deep all the time, Jay.
I know, I can't help it. But you have to know, for those that don't know, I'm an emotional health coach. So for me, it's all about self-love. So if you're looking for a mate, the first thing you have to do is fall in love with you. Because if you want that perfect person, you have to love you before somebody else can love you.
Yes, see, Cheryl's over there clapping, I'm clapping too. But you know what I did, and this is a shameless self-promotion for one of my good friends, is about, I think it was like a month or two ago, I said, I have to find something to represent self-love and falling in love with myself. So I asked my cousin, what she thought. She said, you have to get some rose quartz crystal. And I'm like, okay, where can I get that? So I went to the Dragon and the Rose, which is my dear friend Karen Estremo in Orange County. And I'm like, I have to find some rose quartz. And she was like, okay. So she got me all these different crystals. I got one that's on a stand. I got this necklace. That's why I always wear it now, just a reminder to love myself. She gave me some rose quartz, bath salts. See, I'm a work in progress. And thank y'all for this therapy session. I appreciate it. I don't know if it's going to equate to sales for all of you guys, but you help me out.
Now you need the meditation to go with it and the repetition of it saying over and over and over again. So like it just needs like 2 minutes.
What am I going to say for 2 minutes?
That you love yourself.
Okay. Okay.
The best thing to do, Sharifa, is look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Look into your eyes, not just your face. You know, most people will just look at the overall of who they are. But if you really look in the mirror, and that's part of what's in my book, okay? But if you look into your own eyes and really look into your soul and tell yourself, I love you, it's a big difference.
Do you do that, Joseph? Is that how you got all that self-confidence and self-esteem? Do you stare at just I'm just asking questions.
No. I just, my view is I try to give. So I'm still I haven't even, as I was saying earlier, I'm struggling with the receiving, but I just try to focus on the giving. And if I feel like if I give, I feel good in my heart for giving. So I just kind of stick with that and then and go from there. So I haven't practiced that, but I might give that a shot.
It might help with receiving.
Right, might help with receiving. That's right.
See, then y'all gonna see Joseph at all the meeting with all the guys. He gonna be the one walking around talking about, let's talk about it. Let's talk about our feelings. I think we need to communicate more.
I couldn't say it that way. I'd have to say it like, you know, my girlfriend was telling me about some Zoom online show. They were talking about giving and receiving. Interesting, right? I'd have to say it that way to get their attention.
But what I noticed that it started with the girlfriend. Like you have to throw in the hot girl in order to get their attention. You know.
Well, I got to put it on her. I've got to put it on her, and then she's telling me, "Have you had your wife talk to you about this thing called giving and receiving?" Yeah, it's fascinating.
Or go around and give compliments to your man.
Well, that is interesting because
men typically don't do that.
Men don't do that, but I do.
But like, good job, you know, you're doing a really good job, and then watch what they do.
Yeah, you're right. You probably couldn't tell a guy, hey, you should give more, because they'll be like, what are you talking about? I give. That guy's got a job, or the guy's, whatever. Guy's got work. But if you could say, hey, pay him a compliment or pat him on the back, that's something that they could understand. That would make sense. That's good advice.
Mm-hmm. Terry Lynn, what are your thoughts? I know you have eWomen Network. You speak to a lot of women. What are your thoughts on the conversation thus far?
Yeah, I hear you guys. All of you guys are making some wonderful, wonderful comments, and that's really, really good. And I do agree with the whole self-love, which is also self-care, which is also tied into receiving and giving. And I kind of just want to give a kudos to Cheryl. And to tell you, Sharifa, not to give up, because I was you. I was you in that that yoga or like that kind of stuff. Just it didn't, I tried it a couple times. People told me I should do it. I tried it, and I have to say, one of the things that I'm starting to feel a little low, kind of just working from home type of thing, and maybe I was giving, and not doing enough for me. And so, I started taking longer walks, getting out. And actually, my thing today that I went for was like inspiration, that you need to remove yourself from your office, your home, and change your environment so that you let go of your other thoughts to take in new thoughts for inspiration. And so that was my little Friday tip for the day. But I met somebody who is a good yoga person, like Cheryl. Yeah, really, really good. And she has this intro to yoga type of course where she just kind of, where she's bringing in some of the philosophy. She's telling about the moves. She's not she's making me feel comfortable, and I'm going. And I've met the other people that are going, and it is, and I can't do, and she's pretty like, well, if you can't do this, just do this,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's just getting me in the right direction, and I have to say it's lovely. And so that is, and then I feel good, I feel better about myself, and then I'm able to recharge and give more, and then I'm biting my tongue like Jade is telling us to. I'm just saying thank you. And so I'm trying, it is, but it's hard, it's work, it's something
Mhm.
different that I'm not used to. And so, but I say don't give up on the yoga, Sharifa, and kudos to Cheryl for doing it right, and talking about that. There is, I've attended too many bad yoga, where they actually ridiculed me because I couldn't do something. And I'm
Mm.
going, well, I'm not going to come back to this class, and maybe I'm just
Wow.
not yoga right, but they were just bad.
Mm. I don't know. Maybe there's something in between, because the lady that you found that you like, she sounds too nice for me. Like, I need a drill sergeant. That's what I need. Because if you let me do what I want to do, I will be on the couch talking about stretch, like stretch. Like, you got to push me into the pool, because I'm not just going to dive. I'm honest. Like, one of the things that I loved, and I got to this way at 40, like I started to feel it around 39, 40. Like, I don't lie, I don't care. Like, I am who I am at this point, and I am not like looking, I'm not going to do that much. So I need somebody to push me. But maybe I'll take a look at some of her online classes, and maybe it will help. Maybe I'll resonate with it. I don't know. I want to go over to Melanie real quick. Now, I'm scared to ask Melanie questions, because every time I ask her a question, she gives me an answer I'm not expecting. But I will try for a safe one, because we've been talking, we've been listening for your advice. But what is Wise Tribe? I still don't know what that is.
So we're a technology firm.
Mhm.
We help make technology accessible for the masses. Our slogan is that we want to help millions of people live a life of freedom by allowing them to streamline and optimize their business using technology as the platform. And so we take away the 3 barriers to technology, which is time, money, and knowledge. So we make it affordable, we make it accessible. You don't have to have any knowledge, but we give you knowledge into your own business by automating your analytics and reporting. And, we give you back your time, because we're automating all the aspects of your business, so you don't have to do the mundane to-do list, right? You can rip up that to-do list and start focusing on what's your genius, what's your passion, and not on the stupid technology that, as you saw earlier, can fail.
I almost want to be like, what is going on in your life, Melanie? She's like, stupid technology, like, who broke what? What happened? Because I need to hear this story. But you are so much more than Wise Tribe. I know that. Like, I know you got all these other areas and facets. You do a lot of speaking. Because the advice you gave earlier, it really impacted me. Like, so I know there's a lot in there. Have you been doing speaking engagements or talking more during the pandemic?
Yeah, so there's really 3 pillars that make up my life. I'm a competitive triathlete.
See, told you. I knew that. My psychic telekinesis kicked in. I'm like, there's a lot here I'm not seeing, because there's a certain strength about you.
Yeah, so when I was younger, when I was in high school, I broke my back in 7 places. I was in a horrific car accident.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, no, it's fine, because, everything happens for a reason. And so I was in a brace, and I was made fun of in high school, but it all made me stronger. The doctor said that I needed to stay active for the rest of my life, or else my spine would fuse and I would lose, a lot of mobility. And I was a young kid at the time, so I just believed him, because he was an adult, he was a doctor, and he was Larry Bird's orthopedic surgeon. So I was like, well, he's Larry Bird's.
Yeah, right.
Like, he must be smart, right? So I just believed him. And so I went into athletics, or I was already in athletics, but like I went in full force.
Mhm.
And I'd been working out my entire life. And I still had all this back pain. And then actually I went into the hospital in my adult life, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, with a septic kidney infection.
Oh, wow.
And long story short, I came out of the hospital with absolutely no back pain. And I didn't want to tell anybody because I was like, as soon as I tell somebody, it's going to come back, right? And this was the first time in my life. I mean, I had spent 30 years in pain. So this was the first time in my life where I was like, what, you know? And so I didn't want to tell anybody. And finally, I have a friend who's a chiropractor, a network chiropractor, which means like no popping and cracking. They do it through energy. And I said to her, shh, I'm not experiencing any back pain and I don't know why. and I don't want to tell anybody because I'm afraid it'll all come rushing back. And so she took x-rays and she worked with me and it was completely healed. My spine was 100% healed. And it had healed a long time ago, but my neurons had not caught on to the fact. So they were still sending me signals that I was in pain, even though I wasn't, like I didn't have a broken back. And so I did all this personal growth work and just trying to be the best person I could be because I was an executive in corporate and I wanted to be better for others. And so I have the athlete and all the journey that I've been on as an athlete. I have the, technology, the corporate and all that stuff. And then I have this digital nomad side of me that I just travel the world and I do public speaking and I don't like to limit myself, right? So I just, like, if I know the answer or if I feel like I have some good experience to share, then I will. So, like I've done 10 years of personal growth work. So I can talk about things from that perspective, from an experience, not from a person who has a degree in, in that field.
I love it. I love it. But you can just tell all of that in your strength that you had a story. That's why I do these shows, because people always want to come on and pitch me their book or their product or service. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. That's wonderful. But let's talk about you. Let's talk about what's going on in your life. And then, of course, I can work in some of my therapy and solve all my problems all in 1 hour. So, but there's strength in your voice. I heard it in your voice. Now, Cheryl, I want to talk to you because you do occupational therapy. Do you see the same thing? Have you seen the same thing as far as people healing and not necessarily understanding the process?
Yeah, so what she was talking about is similar to phantom pain. So like when somebody has an amputee or say a foot is amputated and the pain is still there because the nerves are still firing as if that was still present. And so in her case, the injury probably pinched a nerve at some point, but once it healed, the nerve forgot to say, hey, I don't need to be on all the time. And with the self-help stuff, it, what it ends up doing is calming the nervous system down. You're not in fight or flight. The inflammation goes down. And my guess, because I'm not in her physical body, is with all of that and guidance from, sounds like a really good chiropractor, that it was able to heal itself. So once you get out of fight or flight mode, or the woe is me, I'm always in pain, or whatever the story may be, then that process you can move forward in your journey. And I find I'm a special needs sibling. I have an older brother who's on the autism spectrum in the severe end, so he's nonverbal as an adult, or sorry, you're not supposed to say nonverbal anywhere. Whatever, he doesn't talk with his mouth. And so working with kids similar to him and seeing them grow using kind of a therapeutic modality, which is a lot different than Melanie's story because that was caused by an injury, but the fight or flight mechanism is still the same. So it doesn't matter if it was a problem here or here, there was an impairment with the brain and the body communicating. So it doesn't matter what the diagnosis is.
No, I understand that. I was rear-ended and had back injuries years ago, and recently I went to a chiropractor and she told me I was in a constant state of fight or flight. And I said, okay, you seen the 6th district of Long Beach? Like every time I leave my house, I'm in constant fight or flight. Like, give me a house out of here, then maybe I'll change that. So I definitely understand what you're saying. Now, let me see. I'm trying to see, I'm playing with my time right now. I'm trying to see if I want to ask Jade one last question before we run out of time. But Jade, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What are your thoughts listening to or hearing what Melanie had to say?
Well, you know, that's a good question that I'm not sure if I really have an answer to, but I love the idea that she went through a lot of personal growth, because this is something that so many of us don't do. You know, it's why I do what I do. I don't want people to have to wait until they're my age to be able to heal themselves. And that means not just emotionally, but mentally and physically. So this group is absolutely fantastic when it comes to doing all of that. I'm like you. I've tried yoga, but I just hadn't found the right yoga teacher because I have some physical limitations. And because of them, there's a lot of things that they tell you to do that I can't. So I feel left out, and I just then don't go back because it makes me feel uncomfortable, especially if the teacher isn't coming from a loving place and an understanding place. So, but I'm so glad to hear that Melody's pain is gone. You know, also your stay in the hospital and your stopping all of that pushing yourself may have also helped to get the mind and the body all on the same page. That's why your pain stopped.
Cheryl, what about people like Jade who express that same interest? Well, maybe they can't do everything that other people can do, but maybe there are ways that they can modify it.
You're going to want to look for the word accessible. So either accessible yoga or one of those kind of words of all abilities, something along those lines. This is what I tell people, you know, you go to a primary care physician, right? And that primary care physician doesn't do your heart, your kidneys, your spine, he refers out for those specialties, right? And so I feel like there's the 200-hour yoga teacher, but there's others out there that they could refer to. They just don't, because it's a cutthroat type business. And my suggestion is interview the teacher, listen for keywords such as accessible, modified, all abilities. There's certain keywords you can pick up on. You run, if they say do it, they go, well, just do what you can. Well, if you can only do 25% of the class, you're going to be kind of ticked off. That's like getting 25% of a haircut. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So, you know, you listen for those key words, and if they're saying, well, do what you can, or I had an eclectic training, and they sound like woo-woo, run. They're not for you. They're not, you know, those ones I don't employ ever, because the universe told me, no, find your root chakra, lock it down. This is a job. But yeah, there's a lot of that out there, and especially, I hate to say it, it's all over the world, but California tends to have that reputation of having that. But I will tell you, the founder of Accessible Yoga is in Santa Barbara. He's not far. So there are teachers in your area that, I don't know if he has them listed on his website or not, but there are teachers in your area that do specialize in.
So, Cheryl, if I might ask, you don't like woo-woo? I'm sorry, have to ask that.
The science brain, so you know, they try to stay out of logic and try the analytical thinking. I have put the science behind it, so to me it's not woo-woo. But the ones that talk about, I think of the Aflac commercial where the yoga, you know, the duck is in there and they're doing a yoga class, and the woman goes, and liberate your spine. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. So it's that kind of language that gets people into trouble.
Very interesting, very interesting. Maybe want to continue the conversation on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. You are funny, Cheryl. If you haven't started doing little YouTube clips, I would tell you you got a new career because you are funny. You have a way of explaining yoga that I believe is rare and I definitely haven't heard before. So that would be my professional recommendation for you. I want to thank you. Oh, I was about to thank y'all all for joining me today, but I'm in the wrong place. It's Friday. I think I'm tired. We are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives, and simply let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Terry Lynn.
Well, thanks, Sharifa. Just, whether it's in your life or whatever you do, my whole thing is create an experience. And that is in take the time and energy to stimulate all five senses. And that's my message today.
I love that. Get a little dating kit. Like we changing everybody's career because I like that idea. I like that whole dating kit kind of thing. Joseph, what do you have for us?
Well, I guess I'll just say what I've taken away from it today. One, the ability to give and the ability to receive is so important. Two, being open to things. This is not a dialogue that a lot of men have, but they should have. So just being open to the discussion and be open to what the universe gives you or is trying to tell you, which is a little bit of what Melanie was saying earlier. And then three, everything happens for a reason. You just need to listen to what that reason is, right? And go from there. But I really have enjoyed being on the show. Thank you.
You are so welcome. I enjoy you being here and giving us the male perspective and actually translating. I don't know if you ever seen that video online about the Obama translator by Keenan Peele. If
Yes.
not, yes.
Yeah.
But like that's how I feel today. Like you're translating. This is the women said, but let me translate it for you. So thank you for being here, Joseph. Melanie, what do you have for us?
So I would just say, like, whether you're an entrepreneur, small business owner or not, it doesn't matter. You were put on this planet with a path and a purpose, a genius to share with the world. So make sure you're sharing it. Don't play small, and always prepare yourself to accept success because you deserve it.
Oh, that is so wonderful. I'm going to say that in the mirror too. Accept success because you deserve it. Thank you for that mantra today. Cheryl, what do you have for us?
Well, if you think of yoga as receiving, maybe that is what the difficulty is when you go, is that you're not quite there and quite ready to receive anything that comes to you. So whatever the mind body practice you choose, I don't care if it's yoga, tai chi, meditation, whatever, being open enough to receive whatever comes to you may be the challenge.
I think it is. Jay, you see what you started today? You opened us up with that message, receive, because that's what I need to hear. I'm pretty sure people watching need to hear the same message. So take us out, Jay.
So every day, do something to be able to receive. It doesn't matter what it is, how small it is, but allow yourself to receive something every day and practice allowing yourself to have it. Every single one of us is worth everything. We were created in God's image and we are all perfect. Every single one of us deserve to be happy. And part of that is receiving.
I love that. Do you hear that power in her voice? I'm going to call you every morning, Jay. When I wake up at 4 a.m., I'm going to call you just to hear your voice, start my day off. You need one of those, what they call them, those conference lines that all the churches do. They every morning call in for prayer. We're going to get you one of those, Jay.
It's interesting. Every single morning when I first get up, I always do at least 10 gratitudes. And every night before I go to bed, I also sit and go over all of the wonderful miracles and things that happened that day. And I go to sleep with that gratitude. So when things come around, it's easier to receive because I feel that for everyone. And you're right, I'm very passionate about what I do.
And that's why I love you, and that's why you give the best hugs. I'm sending you a virtual hug right here in Long Beach, California, to you and to everyone on the panel and to everyone who was watching. Melanie's over there cracking up. I don't know why. I want to thank you all for being a guest on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. It's been a fun week. It's been a fun show. I had a lot of fun, so I appreciate you. I also want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show. I appreciate your support, but don't just watch the show. Go to the websites, visit our guests, follow them on social media, send them a message, and when you send that tweet or that inbox, please let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. And if you are interested in being a guest, please visit the website at AskSharifa.com. Until Monday morning, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.